Hi, everyone. I am Nasia DuPont, and welcome to the inaugural session of the Pivot 2. And on this podcast, we're going to be talking a little bit about reinventing yourself, finding your second self, and whether that's career or personal, making a huge shift in who you are. And I am so excited because I'm joined by my co host here, Paulina.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I'm really excited about the inaugural of Pivot too, and discussing about our career, where we came from, and why we're doing this. And I couldn't do it with a better person. I know Nasia for probably 20 something years, and we've been together for a long journey, businesses together. We had really a long friendship with all of the ups and downs and shifting in different ways and reinventing ourselves along the way. So I'm very happy to be joining you today, Nasia.
So I think one of the big things for us is where we come from, and our story really leads us to why we wanted to do this podcast. And I think with the current climate, the way that it is, where people are going for longer stretches with unemployment, they're going into industries that they may not have been in before. And there are people who just want to break that cycle. They don't want to sit in a cubicle anymore, an office, and they want to do something completely different. So you don't have to wait and have a midlife crisis. Now people were talking about quarter life crises. You don't have to go through a crisis before you make a major shift. And that's really what predicated this podcast. We really
Mhm.
want to talk to people and let them know how they can make those changes. And it doesn't have to be precipitated by some really bad thing happening. You want to be able to make a shift and talk about how we're going to be able to do that. But Paulina and I have known each other for a very long time. So the whole goal here is we come from very vastly different backgrounds. And I'll speak for myself. I started out in college, I was an English major. I said, I really want to go into publishing. I thought, this is going to be so glamorous. I'm going to be reading books and manuscripts, and I'm going to be in New York. And we're from Massachusetts, so it's normal to have this great thing where you're from New York and you're going to New York to make it big and all that. And my first job, I was an editorial assistant, but I was in editorial production. So I did textbooks. So there was no glamour. There was nobody was going to do a drama about me. So I knew pretty quickly that that's not what I wanted to do. And I actually made the pivot into marketing, and I did marketing for a very, very long time, corporate America, and I did a lot in tech. So that's where my background comes from. And guess what? That's not what I'm doing at all today. And right now, I am actually in real estate, and I've moved. Pauline and I both have moved several times.
Mhm.
And we've just made something happen out of kind of nothing. And Paulina, I know you can talk a little bit about your background too, because
Yeah.
you are nowhere where you started from.
No, not at all. I mean, you know, unlike Nasia, I was a science nerd. So I studied biochemistry thinking that I was going to go to medical school and went through the whole process of applying for medical school, got accepted. But on my junior year, I decided that that's not what I actually wanted to do because I went and worked for a research lab at a hospital. And I realized that what they did was not exactly what I was thinking about in terms of being a part of a community, being part of actually helping people. And although in research, I was with animals and studying rats, so that wasn't really not exactly what I was picturing to do. And up until that point, I would say my whole college and education had been focused on science, and I was dying to know what else was out there. So I chose not to go to grad school right away, and I chose to defer my med school acceptance. And I never went to medical school. Full disclosure, I'm very happy that I made that choice. But what I learned in the process is that there was a lot more than science than there was a lot more for me to explore, and I was really interested on the business side. My first job was actually in engineering because I wanted to be away from science, but I couldn't really go an engineer in a semiconductor company. And I learned some skill sets in terms of how to manage people, how to work with different backgrounds and different levels. But then ultimately, I did go back to do some research at a hospital for a while to double check that medicine was something that I did not want to do. And I had a great mentor. So I think part of having the pivot is also surrounding yourself with these great mentors that give you sometimes unsolicited advice, but also seeking for that advice to help you look beyond what you see in front of you. And this mentor really helped me to understand, what is it to really be in medicine, and what is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And one of the things that I realized is that I did enjoy helping people, but I couldn't separate myself from being attached to the patient. So I still wanted to be able to do that. So we ended up going to business school. That's where Nancy and I met. And I thought that going to business school was going to be a path for me to go back to the hospital and change our healthcare system. Something that a lot of people talk about.
Mhm.
But I discovered that I wanted to do more things. So after business school, I went into marketing. I did finance. And then I found myself back into science, but not necessarily doing research anymore. So tech industry, and I have had different roles, and that's where I am today. So I define when people told me that I couldn't do something, and they told me that I couldn't change industries and I couldn't change roles. And I'm a living proof that I was able to do both. I changed industries and I changed roles at the same time without experience. So if I was able to do it, I think that any one of us can do it if we have the right tools and the mindset to do it.
Yeah, and I think we've both taken, and I'm not even going to say that they were mistakes or anything like that. We have detoured and veered trying to find that right path and what we actually wanted to do with our lives. And we've gotten married, we've had children, we have done different things that in different parts of our lives we needed something different and we needed to do something different. So I think going out of corporate America, getting out of corporate marketing, that was a huge thing. I actually took a detour where I went to massage therapy school. I wanted to be a doula and a massage therapist. And then I got contacted about a marketing job that I could not give up. And I got right back into marketing. So it was a detour. And yet I think I learned so much from that. And so I think that's one of the things that we want to really talk about because every pivot, Paulina, is not going to be the pivot that works.
Yeah, and not only that, but sometimes success is not a straight line. It is a curve that goes up and down. So you're never going to go just straight up, right? There's going to be a curve that it goes up and down. But Nasia, as well as I do, that taking those curves and going in a direction that you thought that you were not going to take, it actually is so beneficial for you because you learn more about your resilience, and you start learning about how did I rebrand myself? How did I reinvent myself? How did I shift? And I think that one thing that we forget is that we are very adaptable. And sometimes when we are now in one place for a long time, we forget that we have accumulated all of these these skill sets that we're putting in, they're tools, and they can be applied to different roles, to different industries. Maybe you do need to go out and learn a little bit about that an industry if you're interested in switching industries. But you have the tools, you have the know-hows, and sometimes we forget that. We forget that we have all of this experience, and I think sometimes being in corporate America, you forget that you had been building uh, all of these skill sets and refining at times those skill sets to be able to make a change and to make a move. And even if you just want to stay in the same place, how do you grow within that place that you are, and how do you become more visible to others?
And we're not alone. So there are
No.
so many people who are sitting with decisions about what they're going to do, not just with their career, but what they're going to do with their lives. And there are people who are looking at their lives and saying, I wish that I had done this, or I wish I could go into that. Don't let that be a barrier for you. Now, let's be very clear. This is going to take work. This is going to take work. Sometimes it's going to take research. It's going to take your energy. It's going to take your time. When I went in to make the switch into marketing, I was told no everywhere I went. I was told I needed to get more experience. So guess what I did? I went to a small business in the tech industry and I told him, I will do your marketing plan for you for free if you let me just try things. And he said, absolutely. You can do whatever you want if you're working for free. So I worked a full-time job. And then after my full-time job in publishing, I went and did an entire marketing plan, all the marketing for this tech company, which was one guy with a couple of employees. And he was so excited. And I had something tangible to give. So that isn't what everybody can do, and that isn't what everybody wants to do, but sometimes it's going to hurt a little bit to make that move.
Yeah, and I think the other example that don't forget about is when we finished business school. It was a year where the market was not as
Yes.
strong. There was not a lot of people hiring. There were jobs available, so we started our own business and we started baking.
Yes.
And we started baking for free. We started baking for our families. We started, we even had a website, and we started using our family
Mhm.
for the website, and using our network to be able to make that happen. And one of the things that I learned about it is that for me, all of this was new because I was still freshly new from a science, from a research background, and getting out there and actually marketing myself was something new for me. That then I took that skill set and applied it to the job that I got after business school. And I'm so grateful that we did that business, and
Yeah.
this cake business that we did for a while. So
I think, well, also because it was good for our stomachs.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we've done a lot and we have invested very successfully together.
Hmm.
And we've done a lot of things together, but we didn't have to, that didn't distract from us pursuing our full time jobs and full time interests. It was kind of passion projects. And I think everybody deserves a passion project, something that they're incredibly interested in that may not make a whole lot of money, but something that they really, really want to do. And I think a lot of people think everything, like you said, has to be linear.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to build up my career. And for some people, that works and that makes total sense. And it's exactly what they want to do. But I was thinking that I believe it was in the Super Bowl. I can't remember. I think it was in the Super Bowl that one of the referees, he actually had a very storied career in a big law firm, huge law firm, and he had made it all the way to the top and then decided to retire and he was doing refereeing on a big huge scale on a big huge platform. But you would never know that unless you knew his story. And I'm sure that is a passion of his that he was able to pursue because he had laid the foundation in another industry. Now, that's the pivot that we're talking about. It's not necessarily a pivot where you go from director to vice president somewhere else and just make it a different industry. Sometimes that pivot is drastic. That pivot is something that's a shift in your whole mindset and how you actually make money or don't make money. It happens to be what you want to do and what you want to pursue. And I'm dedicated to helping people find out what they want to do and to pursue it and enjoy it. And that's what we really want.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I'm gonna pick on the enjoyment component of it. I think you do have to have that that attitude, because there are going to be days that you're like, why am I doing this, and why things are not working out for me, and you're missing out the big picture. You're doing it because it's probably fulfilling for you. It's refreshing for you. Sometimes it's not just about like a title. It's about what are you learning, and where do you want to go, and how do you want to go, and really thinking that you are your best advocate. You are the driver of your career. You're the driver of your success. And one of the things that I learned when I was a kid was you can go anywhere and as far as you want. And the only person that can tell you that what you're able to do and not able to do is yourself. So I think that understanding that, know that, and be grateful for what you have, but also enjoy those moments. Enjoy even those times when you fall down a little and then you have to get up, because I think those are the ones that actually propel us to move in a different direction, or even to move forward. So I think sometimes we forget to have fun.
Yeah. I that is huge. We absolutely forget to have fun. And honestly, we know in corporate America, especially, you have deliverables. You've got things you've got to do. Look at my corporate jargon coming back. You've got things that you've got to do that you've got to work on. There are things there are expectations of you. You have responsibilities. We get that. We absolutely understand that. But you also need to be able to harness the ability to have fun. And if you can't have fun in your current position and in your current role, and there's no fun in there, then you've got to make this side hustle or your hobby, you've got to make that work for you. There's got to be something that you're passionate about and that you truly, truly enjoy, whether it makes you money or not, that you're interested in pursuing. And I think people are so afraid of losing what they have. And you don't necessarily, when you're making a pivot, you don't necessarily have to lose what you're doing at this very moment. It's just enhancing, adding to it.
Yeah. And also preparing for it, right? So
Mhm.
uh, a lot of it is also a little bit of planning, right? So if you know that where you are, or even if you are looking, but you think about your past experience, or your current experience, you're like, there are things that I like about what I do, and there I don't like about what I do or what I did. But you know what are those elements that you enjoy doing, and how will that help you for your next move, and how you can prepare for that? Are there people that you're interested in talking to that are doing something that you want to do in the future? Or even, if you're searching for something new, it's like, who are those key people that you want to identify and see how do they got there? Like, people always love talking about themselves and how they got where they got to, where they are now, right? So that's being able to look at your resources, being able to look at um, where do you want to go next, and planning for that. It might not turn out like exactly the way that you planned it, but putting those seeds will help you to connect with people that can make some of your dreams come true.
Yeah, I always love hearing people's background, especially if they're coming from something that's completely different. And I like to hear where they overcome the challenge and they kind of make themselves into something else. They, take everything that they've got and make themselves into something new. And we're going to talk about this
Hmm.
throughout in different sessions, but right now, this is one of the reasons why we started the podcast is because of the climate right now with the employment market the way that it is. We're seeing a lot of people really struggling for a lot longer to find full-time positions, and to find things that actually work. And I think we can attribute some of it to the hiring process as far as even getting your resume seen, because a lot of it is just automatic. If you're going through a filter, you don't even make it through the filter. And then gone are the days where you can just go in and talk to somebody and say, I'm a perfect fit for this because I have these particular skills that are transferable. People want to see the experience in that particular role. They might want to see a couple years doing this particular thing with this particular software on this particular platform and in this particular industry. So, how to combat that and how to say, I'm here and I'm willing to do the work. So, I think that's one of the reasons why we want to talk about shifting yourselves because, like we said, it's not always easy. You might have to put in extra work. And there are people right now who are looking for roles who are doing that work. They are putting everything they have in it. And really, it comes down to sometimes happenstance and
Sorry.
also making big moves. You got to be bold when you got to risk something and just be bold.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I also think that the other thing that is happening too, Nesia, is that we have the difficulty of finding job and taking longer times to be able to find a job. But also the people who have a job being scared of
Yes.
change, being scared of like holding on to that position to that they are right now, because they're afraid to make the change. They might be miserable in where they are, but they don't want to make the change because of the current situation. And I think that another area where will be covered here too, because it's also about pivoting, right? So if you are unhappy where you are right now, how do you change that? How do you go back to thinking that you are in control and that you're in control of your career and driving your career forward? So how do you help people that are looking for a while, but also how do you get people to, if you want to stay within your same organization, how do you elevate yourself? How do you grow within that company? Maybe is, that some of the principles might still apply. You might want to change to do something, a different function within your company. And it's how do you reach out to those folks where you can be basically doing a side hustle on the side or a rotation on the side that you can be learning with, just to get the experience. And maybe that helps you to get that network to be able to move into a role within your organization. But that might also help you to get those skill sets and put those experiences in your resume to go someplace else. So I think that is both. I think it's for people who are been looking for a while, and they want to know how do I pivot, how do I rebrand myself, but also for those folks that are in a situation where they might be unhappy and they think that that's the only option that they have.
And that's what you don't want to always, I mean, sometimes you can't help it, but you don't want to wait until you've hit peak miserable in order to make a change. Sometimes it's just inevitable. You
Yeah.
just, circumstances are that you can't make moves the way that you would want to. And I think people really are starting to understand that with responsibilities, if perhaps you have a family and you're the one, your job has all the benefits. Sometimes you can't make that move. And it's not a move that you can risk your family losing the benefits that you need for any particular reason. So a lot of people are kind of stuck in that limbo. But I think that there are some techniques and some ways to at least start making that change behind the scenes and ask for something out of your current situation. Usually you can go and you can ask your supervisor for certain changes. You might take on different projects that may make you exposed to other departments where you can perform that network. Chances for you to take. I know that there are a lot of companies who do sabbaticals. We know plenty of people who've done
Mm-hmm.
sabbaticals and come back from their sabbaticals completely revived and thinking, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life.
Yeah, or even like join different groups within your company. I mean, I have joined. I'm part of a few groups within my company, and one of the groups, we had a book club every month. And in one of the discussions, I met this wonderful person that she's just started in her career. And one of the things that she reminded me is the power of network and the
Yes.
power of getting your champions and the people that are going to be talking about you when you're not in the room. And you forget how powerful that is at times when you are when you're in the grind for a long time. And one of the things that she reminded me was, you know, I'm Paulina. I'm gonna be meeting a person. I meet 1 to 2 new people every month, and then I keep up with my network. So every 3 months, I put on my schedule that I need to talk to this person. And I'm like, oh, that's a wonderful idea. And you know what I'm doing now? I'm doing exactly that because I want to be able to expand my network, and I want to be able to get more involved within my organization. So being able to in tactics and some tools to be able to navigate all of those different situations. But I think that it's not just when you are at work. I think even when you are looking, having those, getting those coffee chats,
Mhm.
um, reaching out and building that network is so valuable because people are going to be talking about you when you're not in the room, and you forget the power of that.
And that's key. And the hardest time to do all that is when you're looking for a job and you don't currently have a position. That's tough. And that's when you really reach down deep inside and kind of say, okay, I'm going to do this, even if I don't want to, even if I don't feel like it, because you never know where it's going to lead. But right now, it is very, very difficult out there. It's a challenge. And especially when you have this whole trend of ghosting people, whether you're the employee ghosting a company or organization ghosting an employee, that's particularly
Mm-hmm.
challenging and it's very disheartening as well. So you have to remember that we're our own best advocate and we advocate for ourselves. I love what your mentor was saying about making sure you have people who are going to talk about you well when you're in the room, because that's where the opportunities
Mm-hmm.
lie, really. Because you and I may not be on the level where we're having that conversation about people they see they need to be developed, that need to move on, they see potentially being in a more director level position, management position, higher up, and who they want to promote. Those are conversations that are happening in other rooms. You want to be the person that they're talking about. And so that to me is huge. And whether you want to make a leap, such as, say, you're an engineer and you want to become a yoga teacher, you still got to network. You still
Mm-hmm.
have to learn the techniques. You still have to learn the craft and the art if you don't know it already. And you're still going to have to talk to people. So, and I think that's really hard, especially if you're an introvert or something like that. Something you've got to do.
Yeah, and I think that we have to dedicate a chapter about this, right? About
Yes.
how do you build your network, but not just your network. Be thoughtful about building those connections that are going to be support system professionally. You probably also need them. You also need it personally too. But that's when I've been thinking about what we learn in business school. Nasia, when it's like
Mhm.
you have your own board of directors. You have to select your own board of directors because There are going to be situations when you're looking for a job, or you're trying to pivot into something else, or you're just reinventing yourself again, that you want those trusted mentors or those trusted advisors that can provide you. Sometimes you need that honest feedback and that tough love to help you see maybe some things that you're not seeing that are right in front of you. And another times is people to help you understand maybe some how do you navigate a certain situation, how do you navigate change, how do you navigate asking for that promotion, right? So I think that we will do an episode just on that on the in the
Yes.
future, because especially as women, we dismiss the power of that board of directors. We dismiss the power of having that strong network, that purpose, that has a purpose. And we're good networkers, but don't cultivate the component of like, why are we doing this? You know, being mindful about why are we building this network, and how are we going to help them, and then how that network is going to help us too.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who are a little bit hesitant about that networking proportion, a lot of people feel, oh, I don't want to act in as if I'm just asking for something. Let me tell you, you and I both know at that executive level, people are asking. People are, they know a closed mouth will not get fed. They are asking. Now, they're asking in a different way than you might be used to, but they're asking. You're always asking for something. And that doesn't necessarily have to always be for you. But when you cultivate those relationships, even when it gets down to something, when you're against the wire and you know that you are asking somebody to do something and it's going to take their energy and their time, and it's an urgent situation for you, but not for them, that's when your relationships come into play. That's when the person says, they don't ask me for anything. I'm going to just do them a favor. I'll do it this time. And then you reciprocate. You also are appreciative. All of those things come into play. That's why you just never know who is going to be that person who is your angel when you need them the most. And so that's key.
Yeah, and also learning that too, right? Because I think that, you know, I can say that throughout my career, sometimes I wanted to like defend people, and I wanted to be, you know, the savior of that particular situation that I was in. But I forgot about like the consequences. I forgot about how to some bumps along the way to understand like, hey, I can still help people, and I can still I can still provide a voice for those that don't have a strong voice. But I need to be strategic about how I go about it, and then how do I actually communicate that point, and that I don't have to do it alone, and that I can bring others with me to be able to make that point across, to be able to speak up for those that are not able to speak up. And you know, I learned that on my first job as an engineer, where operators were mistreated, and I was, you know, my early 20s, and I thought that I could do anything and everything. So, you know, I went against my management, and that backfired. But if I had known that I could still do it, but I could be strategic about it, that I could bring some people along that were at the same level as my management, that I could have brought that in a different way. But it took that, and probably in a couple of other examples that I will share in a future episode, to learn that you have to also be thoughtful about doing that when you want to speak up for yourself, but also when you want to speak up for others.
We've got a lot of stories.
Yeah.
We have so many stories. And that's the good part, because not everybody's going to tell you all of this. And some of it, if you're in a corporate environment, it has to be framed a certain way. So we're just telling you in this particular form because this is our conversation. We talk about things like this all the time.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to give back to other people and help them navigate through a lot of change that might happen, even if they don't want it to happen. Change that is really all around us right now. I think we're certainly not the only people who have made major career changes, but you do find a lot of people who make changes and then they realize, guess what? This is not for me. I might have to go back to what I know. And I think both of us have done that. We've gone back to what we've known before. And maybe because it's a different company, or maybe because it's a different industry, or maybe it's because it's a different role, it made a difference in what our experience was.
Yeah, and I think that that's the reason why we're doing this. We want to be
Mhm.
able to be brutally honest about our experience, and the hope that it will help you to navigate a certain situation.
It's just us right now, but
Well, in the future, we hope to bring some other folks that will
exactly.
also share their experiences, and then maybe tailored to a specific topic, and also hearing from you what are some of the issues that you would like to hear too.
Yes. So if you want us to cover anything, make sure that you just make you can comment in comment on YouTube and ask us any questions or talk about any particular subjects that you want to cover that are near and dear to your heart. And we will do our best to cover those subjects. And if we don't have the expertise, we're going to bring somebody in who does, because we want to make sure that you get all of the correct information and something that will help you. So I think this is a great start because we just really want to introduce ourselves, why we're doing this, and why we made this decision. We know there are tons of podcasts out there, and there are tons of people who have great experiences who are talking. So we're just very, very grateful that you decided to listen to us, little us.
And tune in.
Yes. So in the future, tune in and we'll talk more about our experiences, obviously, but we also want to know what drives you. Talk about your passion projects, talk about how you want to make a move. And I think it's really important as well. You don't have to tell us all your background information, where you are right now, your role. Especially, we do not want to jeopardize anybody's position where they currently are. But if you have questions, you can even contact us. Um, and we are at the pivot to, so not the number, but the pivot to, as in Roman numerals, podcast at gmail.com.
You can blame me for that. But
So I think we'll close out and we will talk to everyone later. Please make sure that you tune in next time. And we have no idea what we're going to talk about next time. It's probably going to be free flowing discussion like today, because that's usually what we do on the phone anyway.
yes, but we're also going to be dropping some of those nuggets for you to take on. So we will be very grateful if you send us some of your questions, and then we can build some episodes around those.
All right. So I will say goodbye for now. And thanks for tuning in.
And I will say until next time.